Hey folks, Dave Lentz with ReasonandBalance.com. Well, it's June 29th, and tomorrow closes out the first half of the year, so this is sort of our first half summary for 2021. Trying to make a lot of big decisions about which direction the website is going to take. We still want to keep the content relevant and meaningful, and somehow do some things to sort of generate a little more interest. In that regard, please remember to like us, and if you desire to do so, and it certainly would be gratefully appreciated, we do have a page on which you can make a donation to our cause should you so decide. So without further ado, here is our wrap-up of the first half of 2021. Thanks and enjoy. Hi folks, Dave Lentz here with ReasonandBalance.com. It is June the 29th, 2021. Got through the pandemic. I got both shots. The COVID-19 pandemic. Unfortunately, we've got this new variant now. I think it's called the Delta variant that they're very concerned about. They say the existing shots got or were received by somewhere around 45% of the total U.S. population. I don't know. I've seen so many figures. I'm not exactly sure. It's probably the majority of adults. Probably the reason it sinks below 50% may have to do with younger folks. Not really sure. But I encourage everybody out there to get a shot simply because apparently it also provides some protection against the new Delta variant, and we really have got to, as best we can, get away from dealing with this thing, because it eventually is going to create a serious drag on the federal government and on the economy if we just don't do something to try to rectify this situation. So please, for those of you out there who haven't gotten your vaccine, we're very here into science, fact-based decision making, application of reason and logic and science to try to solve problems objectively. Basically give a sort of a short rundown. I was looking at Yahoo and MSN.com and looking at some of their stories, and unfortunately this society, I'm talking about America right now, is a little dysfunctional. And one of the reasons is that the news that we get so often is overly focused on tabloid content. I mean, basically it's designed to to tickle our fancy, so to speak, something scurrilous, something gossipy, and so everything is about getting attention as opposed to conveying useful information. And it's also, we have a whole economy built on misdirection. I just recently started advertising on a well-known social media site, and it is just amazing. You go in there, you put all this information in about yourself, and you talk to your friends, and there's a news feed and all this kind of stuff. And but what they're doing is they're collecting all this incredible information about us, and it's frightening. It's simply frightening to think that any company or any organization, whether it's governmental, private, or whomever, has that much information about us. It's dangerous. It's just dangerous. And so there's something in our quarter anyway for some way of further regulating these types of entities. And also the antitrust laws probably ought to be stiffened. And we have some other ideas in that regard. Yeah, and in that regard, we did have a video, my God, I think a couple of years ago on Bitcoin. We clearly missed a big positive move in Bitcoin and any cryptocurrency, but we still don't see any intrinsic value to that type of asset. We think it's more like a commodity, like it's almost like buying and selling a painting. I mean, the asset itself doesn't generate income. It trades basically on the idea that somebody else is going to perceive it to be more valuable. I call it the greater fool theory. And it's certainly probably some sort of case study, at least as far as we're concerned, in behavioralism overtaking economic common sense. The other thing about it is I think the governments are slowly but surely looking at getting more involved in regulating it, and clearly after the latest situation where the pipeline in the United States was subjected to being hacked, and there was an extortion attempt, and the FBI was able to track down some Bitcoin transactions and recover a lot of that money. That certainly would seem to indicate that it's not quite as anonymous as a lot of people think. So Bitcoin, despite the ups and downs, and a lot of people made a heck of a lot of money on it, we're still kind of don't think it's the greatest thing. But we're always offered this free stuff. Well, there's nothing that's free in business. And if somebody's offering you something for free, you need to figure out how they're making their money and what are they getting from you. In this society, you got to be faster, 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 and we're all like a bunch of lemmings racing, increasingly racing to the bottom. In the quest for speed and convenience, in order to win the competition, what we're doing is we're slowly giving away our rights. We're slowly giving others, bigger and bigger entities, more and more power, and we don't realize it. And we won't realize it fully until it's probably too late. So there is cause in this day and age, especially with the advent of things like artificial intelligence. I just got an ad in my email that admitted that it was totally generated with artificial intelligence, and they wanted me to subscribe to something to take advantage of this. We've had this UFO report that was supposed to be, really sort of enlighten all of us as to what all this stuff was. Didn't do anything, except they did admit that there were over 140 sightings that they could not possibly explain. You certainly cannot blame people, those who would conclude that these things that fly around in the sky and do crazy, acrobatic, hypersonic maneuvers, and then go into the ocean and swim faster than our submarines, many times faster than our submarines, that they're not driven or operated by folks who are not of this earth. That has profound consequences for everyone, for everybody on the planet. And sometimes you have to wonder if we as humans should not cooperate more and be less competitive. We've done several videos on the cooperation versus competitive theories, and I'm not very satisfied with any of those videos. But it's just another example of, while there's always some advantages to being cooperative and some disadvantages, and there's always advantages to being competitive and disadvantage. We've got to do a better job of mixing and matching and balancing when to employ those philosophies. And certainly when it comes to matters pertaining to potential existence of extraterrestrials interfering with worldly matters, we need to be more cooperative with our fellow mankind. To study the matter further and to figure out as what mankind should do. Yeah, and as we've indicated several times in several of our videos, the world is getting increasingly small. Just by virtue of the internet, transportation capabilities, world trade has made the world economy very interconnected. I don't think there can be any doubt, especially given how hot the summer is, and the fact that basically, the Arctic Ocean is basically, a lot of it has melted, a lot of the polar ice caps have melted, and the Northwest Passage is basically navigable now, that there's global warming, and now we've had this tower collapse in Florida, killing all those poor people, and it's probably caused, well, I'm not going to go there, but anyway, that, and when you consider like the international response or lack thereof, certainly coordination has been a little bit lacking. But if you consider like the danger posed by COVID, this world is very small and interconnected. And so cooperation between nations is going to become just a more important and more urgent thing in the future, as opposed to always looking at other folks that don't have the same color skin that we have or don't speak the same language as being adversaries and being so competitive with them. Yeah, and I try not to be too partisan, but Mitch McConnell is always talking about stopping the Biden agenda. Let me make this observation. It's okay for any party to oppose, or any politician or whatever, particular individualized policy proposals. That's fine, as long as you're acting in good faith and you're basing your analysis on reason, logic, and science. It's not okay just to have a blanket philosophy of opposing everything that the other party or the president of an opposing party proposes, regardless of what it is. Good, bad, or indifferent, just if the other side is proposing something, we oppose it. That is true obstructionism. And frankly, it's borderline sedition or treason, because it so totally renders government ineffective and inefficient as to not be in the best interest of the country as a whole. Like I said, it's okay to oppose individualized policy proposals based on reason, logic, and science, as long as you're acting in good faith. But you can't just oppose everything the other side proposes. I mean, no party, no system devised by mankind has a total corner on good ideas. And any philosophy proposed or espoused by any person, philosopher, politician, or you name it, has flaws in it. It's just going to happen. So do what's in the best interest in the country on an individualized policy proposal by policy proposal basis. Each proposal stands on its own singularly, and vote according to that particular proposal. I mean, even Hitler I think if I got my history right, I think got the German Autobahn done. And so even politicians as reprehensible as he was, did something good, okay? They said Mussolini made the trains run one time. And I'm sure that, I don't know if it was Stalin or Khrushchev, got the Moscow, I think, subway done or whatever. But the point is that even people that aren't so, we may not admire very much and may hate, occasionally they come up with good ideas and occasionally they do good things. And very importantly, let me add, I would say the same thing if the Democrats were opposing, and sometimes they do, oppose everything that the Republicans propose. Just doing it because the other side, the other party proposes it, is not sufficient grounds for opposing something. And this goes right to the very heart of the functioning of a healthy democracy. If everything becomes deadlock because the parties are fairly evenly split and or can't overcome the filibuster rules or whatever, everything becomes deadlocked and you have gridlock. And then democracy doesn't function. And then what are you going to do? Somebody's going to want a strong leader, a dictator, to come in and solve everybody's problems. That is a horrific scenario and one that must be avoided at all costs. And so it is vitally important for this country to start electing politicians, both Democrat and Republican, that can work with the other party and that can get us out of gridlock. Everybody should dedicate themselves to the best system of government on earth, which is that of the United States, with its Constitution, 3 equal branches of government, the rule of law, due process, equal protection of the laws, and the other 26th Amendments, especially the Bill of Rights, freedom of press, freedom of the right to bear arms, maybe some limitations there on the periphery, but right to bear arms, and go from there. The moderates need to step up their participation in the system of government. We're letting the lunatics on the far right and on the far left run things and have they get all the coverage because the things that those folks say are the most attention grabbing, and naturally that's what you see on Yahoo and MSN and all that stuff, and even the major news channels. We need to hold networks, news sites, people that profess to give us the news, hold their feet to the fire and not let them get away with giving us fabricated positions or just not being honest with us, to have a hidden agenda or maybe a not so hidden agenda. Slavery's wrong, of course. Equal protection is the law and it's right. It's good that we have it, but we've had food stamps in this country. We've had Section 8 housing programs in this country. We've had welfare in this country. We've had, when I was at the Virginia Housing Development Authority, we had a minority business enterprise requirement for any project that we did, that a certain number of contractors at least had to be minority owned. And so when colleges have had affirmative action programs to make sure a certain number of minorities get into school. And these programs are in a sense very, very beneficial and have helped. But the fact of the matter is, we here cannot perceive of any system that would permit reparations for slavery. It obviously would be discrimination, reverse discrimination, unconstitutional on that basis. And none of the people that are alive today had anything to do with that. And beyond that, you can't rectify all wrongs through history. And what are we going to do? Are we going to pay the Indians, the American Indians, I'm talking Native Americans, are we going to pay them a huge real estate bonanza for coming in and taking over the United States of America? You cannot rectify all wrongs in history. And all they do to talk about it is just perpetuate the animosity that does exist, or the antagonisms that do exist in some quarters. It's just inherently divisive. If you're going to be the newest member of the club, so to speak, you don't come in and start tearing down their statues, at least not without going through a calm, rational debate and a discussion, and having that action occur after a debate and a vote. And that should be put up to a referendum, not just by a bunch of people at City Hall, or that should be debated during an election cycle, things of that nature. You don't tear down somebody's history or the people that they admire. Slavery is wrong. Equal protection is the law. It's right. It's the right thing to do. And if you're an extremist and you don't like folks of a different color, you don't sit on their neck and suffocate them, because all you do, regardless of your problem with the other race, which is unlawful in that circumstance, clearly. But you're beyond that, what you're doing is you're giving folks, the militants on the other side of the equation, ammunition to do things like defund the police department, which is absolutely ridiculous. That's not to say that some of the other programs, that some of the folks that do want to defund the police departments, some of the programs that they propose aren't a good idea, because they probably are a very good idea.
Yes, and let me make clear here, what happened to Mr. George Floyd was absolutely tragic and very, very wrongful, and we have definitely got to get better control of what police departments and their personnel do.
Yes, and regarding moderates becoming more involved, I think it would be, for those folks out there that call themselves independents, it would be just marvelous and grand, really, if those folks, who probably are the people that one time or another vote for one party or the other party, and they don't always support just one party or the other, if they got actually decided to actually commit to joining one party or the other and working to secure candidates who are more moderate and balanced and independent in their own thought process, to get those kind of candidates nominated for office, and not just always having these extremists in both parties getting nominated. That gives the electorate at the general election less real choice, and a lot of people, because of that, end up voting for the lesser of two evils. So independents, join a party, get moderates nominated. But the moderates need to step up. We need to recommit ourselves to the U.S. Constitution. We do need to do a better job on the border. Let me just offer this observation as food for thought. Maybe one of the best ways to stop the immigration problem is to help other countries create a better situation for themselves, so that people won't have the incentive to escape a bad situation and move here. Getting people to do what they naturally want to do and naturally stay home would seem to me to be a lot easier than sitting here. I see where the governor of South Dakota has sent troops to the Mexican border. I'll just leave that alone. Anyway, thinking about running a marathon. We've lost 20 pounds in the last 2 months. We've got to lose another 50 for a May 1st marathon in Pittsburgh. We're sticking with under 2,400 calories a day diet. Right now we're doing about 18 miles a week. It goes, right now we're on first day, 1.5 miles, second day, 4 miles, third day, 1.5 miles, fourth day, 4 miles, fifth day, 1.5 miles, sixth day, 5 miles. That's where we are right now. Anyway, that's about it from here. Remember, fact-based decision-making, reason, logic, science, the United States Constitution, and balance in all things. It's Dave Lentz. Talk to you next time. Oh yes, and by the way, please like us, and if you can find it in your heart, if you could make a contribution, a financial contribution to the cause here, it would be greatly appreciated. Thank you so much.